Welcome to the project. Tonight, some of the greatest artists of all time have come together for one big album. So why can't you dance to it?
Are Australia's defences up to scratch? The latest on the military mishap that's got experts worried.
Plus the mystery illness that is paralysing our wildlife. The Aussies doing all they can to find answers.
And I sat down with the singing sensation and music royalty, Queen Billie Eilish herself, for her first Aussie TV interview.
And you haven't been boasting about it at all.
Not at
we
all.
are live
I hardly
from the
mentioned
lands
it.
of the Cooler Nation. It's a big welcome back to Alex, Lee and Susie Houston.
Welcome, guys. How are you?
I mean, we're not as good as you. Billie Eilish glow coming from your face right now.
Thank you very much. We are best friends.
Yes.
Thank you for asking me.
It's a really hard way to find out that I'm no longer your best friend, but whatever.
Can I just make an impolitic observation looking at the panel tonight? Geordie, how does it feel to be in a racial minority?
Seems right. Let's get into today's top stories. And tonight, Aussies are reeling over the largest annual increase to health insurance prices since 2018, sparking concerns it could diminish savings brought on by last week's Reserve Bank rate cut. Customers of the country's biggest funds will pay between 2.6% and 5.8% more over the next 12 months. That's around an extra $110 for a single person and $217 for a family.
The man alleged to be behind Melbourne's infamous Pam the Bird graffiti has been released on bail today. Jack Gibson Burrell will now live with his grandmother in Geelong under curfew. The 21-year-old, who police have described as a notorious vandal, won't be allowed to possess any graffiti gear and is set to return to court in June.
There's hopes a new deal between Qatar Airways and Virgin Australia could equal cheaper airfares for Aussie travellers. Approved by the federal government today, the agreement will see Qatar acquire a 25% stake in Virgin. It will mean 28 new weekly return flights to Qatar's capital, Doha.
It's really good for everyone. It's good for the customers. It'll almost certainly bring a lot more capacity into the market. It'll bring airfares down.
It's really good for people who have nephews getting married overseas this year.
So they did it for you.
A quick observation.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
No one that I know.
And rugby league teams from around the world are in Vegas for this weekend's showcase. Now, of course, the city is famous for residencies from legendary artists like Celine Dion, Lady Gaga, and now these two.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Fantastic.
Just some women having the worst hens night.
But their hips don't lie, Alex.
Yes. And we had dancing mascots. We also had some singing poms. The rowdy English fans caught the attention of Aussie League chief Peter V'landys, who said this to Network 10.
Well, I think the English people have taken it to a further level. I've never seen anything like it. I just hope they stay for the whole 4 games singing, because they'll end up on The Voice. Well, that's not on Channel 10 though, is it?
No, it's not. I was going to ask that.
The Masked Singer, that's on Channel 10.
That's the go.
Hey, you got there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, you got it.
And look, everyone makes mistakes, right? That's fine, Peter. I'm sure you'll nail it when you speak to Channel 7.
Well, they're still going now. You can probably hear them in the background. I think they think they're on The Voice. So, no, look, it's been fantastic. No, it's Australia's Got Talent. Sorry, The Voice. I know Channel 7's got The Voice. I just want to make sure I got the right channel.
You're done.
Nope,
Who knew that Peter V'landys was such an aficionado when it came to the arts and just a supporter of them?
Yeah.
He'll be very interested in this next story, because 1,000 of the world's best artists have come together to produce a brand new album. Now, while they're not exactly bangers, they are raising some eyebrows about one very big problem.
Some of the greatest artists of all time together at last. 1,000 musicians from Billy Ocean to Elton John, Kate Bush, Annie Lennox, Cat Stevens, Radiohead and Jamiroquai, teaming up for one blockbuster album. Is this what we want? And this is the first track. The catchy song called The is the first of 12 near-silent tracks with titles spelling out
The British government must not legalise music theft to benefit AI companies.
drawing attention to the potential impact of new AI laws on the music industry.
Their silence speaks volumes. It's the loudest protest we've had in a while. AI has the ability of decimating our industries.
Under the British government's proposal, tech companies would have access to copyrighted material to train AI models. Material made not just by musicians, but artists, filmmakers, designers and animators. The result? AI imitations which sound uncannily like the real deal. Here in Australia, the situation is even more dire. While British artists have the option to opt out of their content being available to AI, here, as long as there's no reproduction, copyrighted content is fair game.
I have extreme fear and trepidation around it. I feel that we're losing agency, power, control over our own livelihoods and our cultural output as Australians.
And while some argue in favour of the new tech,
the great thing about AI is that it is going to revolutionise how we do think of producing content. It's a bit like a library with a whole lot of books that people can access.
APRA has estimated AI will cost the Aussie music industry $519 million over the next 3 years.
It'll be so difficult to make a livelihood, to make a living out of being an artist.
So are our favourite acts in danger of being silenced by big tech?
The one thing that's good about this is it is the perfect album for a shy karaoke singer.
Yes.
So, I mean, say what you will about AI, and it is terrifying, but...
Yeah. Swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, it's true.
I finally want to go to karaoke.
With me, at last. I have to say, though, Waleed, your face during the Freddie Mercury clip...
I did not like that. I did not like
You nearly took your earpiece out. Like, you were like, this is...
There was a storm off.
Blasphemous.
Yeah, I was offended.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should be doing that to the memory of one of the greatest singer, I'm going to say.
Wow, he said it.
In the history of the universe.
Again.
Anyway, there's a serious element to this. It's not about the rich artists who are staging this protest. It's about the fact that if AI has access to all this and can just produce stuff forever, no one new will ever emerge. There will be no reason for any more creativity, really.
Well, they cut through as well.
Yeah, how would they?
I should cancel my son's piano lessons. That's what you're saying.
Waste of time.
I've saved myself $50.
No, you should actually just go out and get an AI son who can play the piano. That's I think
It's all coming together, no downsides.
I do worry about that, though. Like, what if there is no...
I just don't know if we have anything to be worried about. I mean, you think about the huge pop artists that we have right now, like Billie Eilish, for instance, who I believe you've met. Is that right?
I have met her, yeah. I mentioned it a couple of times.
Like, people follow them not just for their music, they're obsessed with their personal lives and their persona that they bring to stage. I mean, I just can't see anyone going to an AI artist's concert and, like, screaming their name when they step
But they might. They have backstories and stuff now as well, which they can create much faster than I can remember my own biography. Like, that's the thing.
And people already go to warehouses with a DJ, do you know what I mean? So it's like they could just have a screen with this avatar-type person who's, like, composed this entire rave, right? That could be a thing. Copyright. Okay. Time for a break. We'll see you soon. Now, White Ribbon has cut ties with the NRL over its, quote, tone-deaf decision to invite President Donald Trump and UFC boss Dana White to its games in Las Vegas. President Trump has previously been found liable for sexual abuse while White was filmed assaulting his wife 2 years ago. He was never charged. The domestic violence charity made the league remove any mention of the organisation's historic partnership from their website.
Merinda March is Chief Executive of White Ribbon Australia and is with us now. Merinda, maybe I'll begin with the NRL's response to this. So this is a quote from them. They say, "We're a sport for everyone, for all, and I think sending an invite to the sitting president of this country," that of course is the country that the NRL is about to play in, "is appropriate, and that's what we did." And then they point out that they invited Joe Biden last year. Is that fair?
You know what? The NRL is the pinnacle of rugby league in Australia and it has so much influence on sporting clubs. This isn't about politics. This is about calling out poor behaviour and the NRL making sure that those that they invite are of good character and are promoting really good ethics and behaviour for men and boys.
So I understand that point, but I think what they're saying is it's not a character invite, it's an office invite. They're inviting the sitting president of the country that's hosting them, and that's just a reasonable thing to do. Is that not fair?
I think if you looked at the invite was around masculinity and the the holding of account to the behaviour that rugby league is a tough men's sport.
Is that not the case though? Can't it be both?
Yeah, I think it can be both, and I think 49% of the fans who are female would actually really say that that needs to be a healthy call out and a healthy call in to men and boys that behave appropriately.
I mean, I'm one of that 49%, like rugby league, that's my footy coat. I bleed maroon and I'm a Brisbane Broncos fan. But Merinda, is this really about who's invited to Vegas, or is this about you wanting to maybe sever a relationship that wasn't working anymore?
Well, we haven't had a relationship for the past 4 years with the NRL. Communicare took over White Ribbon in 2020, and we were made aware that the NRL had White Ribbons still on their website only yesterday. So when we looked at the values and what was happening, we really made the decision that we wanted to absolutely call the NRL to work in with us, but not at the expense of women who are experiencing family and domestic violence and men who want better from their sport.
So in your understanding then, Merinda, this isn't really you leaving a partnership with the NRL because you hadn't had one. So does that mean going forward that you won't be interested in pursuing one, or where does that leave us? Because obviously White Ribbon, these kind of organisations, appear to be things that would be positive overwhelmingly for a code like rugby league.
Absolutely, and we want rugby league to come and work with us. We want to make sure that we are calling men and boys in to actually be able to hold each other to account. We can't do that if we're not working in partnership and that we're not calling out when bad behaviour happens.
Merinda, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
And would you wait in line for several hours in exchange for a few $100? Plenty of Billie Eilish fans are currently offering up to $200 on Airtasker for someone to line up for them and score them a good spot in the floor section, or mosh pit, if you will, at her Aussie concerts. I'm seeing people in the audience pointing to each other. I wonder what that means. Some say it's easy money, others feel it just wasn't worth the wait.
I think that the people in the audience are pointing to each other because they've been there, they've lived this life,
Are they paying the money or receiving the money?
No, I think they've been within that line, maybe not paying someone to be there, because as someone who has sat in a line for hours and hours and hours and hours so that you will try and get the optimum spot for you to watch your favourite star, that's where you can build friendships. That's where the vibe is.
So don't pay someone else to do it?
No, I think that you're missing out, because if you do have the time and you can be there, it's actually really quite wonderful, because you're buying into the whole vibe and the whole magic of it.
I totally hear that, but I also think it's good training for then standing up for however long you have to. And that is my old lady knees speaking to you right now. Because if you pay someone else, you haven't done the workout, the necessary workout.
Yeah, it is true. It does become endurance art.
It is endurance
at a certain
art.
point. Yeah.
Okay. What's your opinion as someone who's sat opposite Billie Eilish in the way that you never like to mention to anybody?
I've never mentioned it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I won't ask the question. I'll withdraw your honour. We'll go to a break. We'll see you soon.
Now we're heading to Queensland, where a record number of bats and lorikeets have been hospitalised with paralysis syndrome this summer. The cause of the condition, which renders the animals unable to fly, blink or swallow, remains a mystery, with wildlife vets scrambling to find answers.
Currumbin Wildlife Hospital has been seeing patients like this on a daily basis.
She's literally just arrived in the hospital 5 minutes ago.
A flying fox brought in by a member of the public after being discovered in a pot plant.
Now it's a case of doing a really thorough workup, get a full series of x-rays, and if there's no evidence of trauma, then it's very likely that it's paralysis syndrome that we're dealing with.
It's just crazy that she's got her little baby on her as well.
Yeah.
Are they coming in with paralysis as well?
We tend to see it's more an adult thing.
Yeah, okay.
We don't have a test for paralysis. It's a case of ruling out everything else that leaves us with knowing that it must be paralysis. She certainly had a bit of fight in her and a bit of energy when she was admitted. So a lot of the paralysis ones, we're literally seeing they almost can't move at all. They can't blink. So we've caught her relatively early.
The cause of paralysis is still a mystery, and researchers have been looking for one for 4 years. Dr. Alison Peel has been studying it for 3 of those years.
What we're working on now is that it's environmental toxin. So that could be anything from a naturally occurring toxin that's produced by plants or bacteria or fungi or algae, or whether there's flies that might transmit the toxin to fruit.
Data from the Currumbin Wildlife Hospital shared with us reveals that December was their busiest month on record, with more than 2,500 animals admitted. 248 of them were bats and 1,208 were rainbow lorikeets, most of them suffering from paralysis. Alison says they can predict that paralysis events will occur during certain summers.
It seems to be in warm summers, but where there is a lot of rain as well.
The Wildlife Hospital often relies on members of the public to rescue and rehabilitate the animals. Rhiannon is the president of Bats Queensland, an organisation that does exactly that.
So this is little Flower. So Flower's mum unfortunately did pass away from flying-fox-paralysis.
What is this in little Flower's mouth?
This is actually a dummy. In the wild, she would be on mum's nipple nearly 24/7. So this is actually the same dummy as people would get, just a little scaled-down version of it, just to keep her happy and nice and calm and feel like she's with mum as well.
What's your favourite fact about bats?
That they have big hearts.
Really?
Yes, they have massive hearts, quite literally, because of the high demand of flying, and it takes up most of their chest as well. So massive hearts on them, and they act like it as well.
Rhiannon has 27 bats in her apartment. Most of them, like Flower, have been orphaned after losing their parents to paralysis. Bats are nocturnal, so Rhiannon wakes up at midnight to feed them. Then, again, at 4 a.m.
I can't go out over night time. I have to come home and look after the bats and feed them.
Bats face a long road to recovery after suffering paralysis.
It can be weeks because they haven't been moving for so long. They've lost a lot of their body condition and their muscle as well, so you almost have to retrain them how to fly.
Mark Sanders and his wife Sonia are on the front lines of bat rescue operations. We came along with them on one of their night patrols looking for paralysed bats.
We get there about 5 o'clock at night and we don't leave there till about 12 to 2 o'clock in the morning.
How many bats would you be rescuing in a night?
Some nights 20 to 40. Depends how many's in the colony that we need to go rescue. He's right there. You got that one and you got that one there.
What are the symptoms of the bats when they're in full paralysis mode?
They stay still. You watch their eyes and their ears. They're about the only things that can really move. The rest of them just stay still.
Really?
And a lot of them got open mouth with the tongue sticking out too. That's not a good sign.
Okay.
Because they're trying to breathe in, but they're not breathing properly.
But tonight?
All good so far.
Okay, so far?
Yep, all good.
Okay, the colony is doing okay.
Yep.
Be good, yes.
Yes.
While it seems like the worst is over for bat paralysis this season, the mystery surrounding its cause makes it hard to prevent future outbreaks.
We rely on birds and insects to pollinate our forests and out through plants, which is great. The real benefit of flying foxes is that they do that, but over really large distances. So if we lose large numbers of them, then we will lose that very large ecosystem role that they play.
We're happy to report the mum and pup are doing much better now and are in Rhiannon's care.
Why do you do it?
Because I love them. It gives me a great sense of purpose to be able to help them. I don't think I could live with myself knowing that there were bats out there that needed help.
You get your baby.
Isn't that it? Yeah. It's just, they're just so beautiful, and everyone who takes care of them, well done, because you're donating so much time and love.
We're off to a break. See you soon.
Time for more of today's top stories. And Axed broadcaster Marty Sheargold is facing fresh backlash, this time for his comments on endometriosis. The presenter claiming on air on Tuesday the condition, which affects 1 in 9 Aussie women, is made up. It comes after Sheargold was cut by Triple M following remarks about the Matildas, which were widely labelled misogynistic. The PM has now also weighed in.
You know, we need to respect each other, and disrespecting more than half the population is not on.
The Jeffrey Epstein files are finally set to be released tomorrow. The US Attorney General hinted fresh documents on the convicted sex offender, such as flight logs and other records relating to his activities, will likely be made public. Apparently it's on her desk, waiting to be released, but it's faced delays in order to redact the names of more than 250 victims.
What you're going to see, hopefully tomorrow, is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information.
The government is warning Chinese warships lurking off the Australian coast could be planning on sailing all the way around Australia. So just how worried should we be about China's show of military might?
I think you are engaging in politicisation of this event for your own political purposes. And I think people can see that.
I think people can see that this has been shambolic handling of this issue over the last couple of days. Utterly shambolic.
6 days after 3 Chinese warships conducted live firing drills off the coast of Australia, forcing planes to divert mid-flight, today another Senate grilling about who knew what when.
Do you have a question?
I have many.
The grilling came after revelations from our military that Australia only found out China was unleashing live rounds in the Tasman Sea after the fact from a Virgin Airlines pilot.
Is it the case that Defence was only notified via Virgin and Air Services Australia 28 minutes after the firing window commenced?
Yes. New Zealand's military taking some 90 minutes to relay the same message to the ADF, contradicting the PM's version that notice was given.
There was notice given. We have made it clear that we think more notice should have been given.
And that Australia received civilian and military alerts
at around the same time.
That's not true.
The Prime Minister is either making this up, shooting from the hip, or completely out of his depth, or maybe all three.
We have been very clear that China is going to keep being China, just as Mr Dutton isn't going to stop being Mr Dutton. The man who once said it was inconceivable we wouldn't go to war is going to keep beating the drums of war.
The Chinese warships are currently lurking 500 kilometres west of Hobart, the border of Australia's exclusive economic zone. Australian defence officials not ruling out that a Chinese nuclear-powered sub might also be lurking in the depths, gathering intelligence.
We don't know whether there is the presence of a submarine, and that in part speaks to the nature of submarines.
The unknown ringing alarm bells for some.
I don't understand why we don't have missiles all up the top and around Australia, so work that one out.
So what do China's war games say about Australia's readiness for war?
I'm telling you right now, if we were to be attacked, we're buggered. We're absolutely stuffed.
Well, Jennifer Parker is a maritime security expert and has been watching all of this drama unfold. Jennifer, we just heard from Jackie Lambie there. She said that if we get attacked, we could be absolutely stuffed. Is she right?
Hey, look, thanks for having me on, and certainly has been a lot of drama. Look, I wouldn't use the term we're stuffed, although I appreciate Senator Lambie loves the colourful words. But she's right to say that we have an issue in terms of our defence capability, right? And this comes from the fact that for decades we have underinvested in defence. At the moment, we're spending about 2% of GDP on defence. Throughout the Cold War, we averaged about 2.7%. And what that means, given that underinvestment, is we just don't have the capabilities that we need. Now, the government did announce last year an increase in defence spending, and we expect to get to about 2.4% by the end of the decade. But even then, the spending just doesn't match our strategic circumstances.
She did also say that we're buggered. If we're not stuffed, would you say we're buggered?
No, I wouldn't say we're buggered either, but I would say that we do need to respond to the current strategic situation, which means we really do need to consider our investment in defence.
I have no more questions.
Jennifer, I have a few more words for you. Is it concerning or worrying or maybe even embarrassing that we found out about this incident after the fact from a commercial pilot?
So I actually don't think it's embarrassing. I do think that we have very much over-dramatised this incident. First thing is, warships conduct gunnery serials all the time. I've conducted many in my life. Second thing is, these warships are actually 340 nautical miles from Australia. That is the distance between Canberra and Melbourne. So they were nowhere near our waters when they conducted this. The normal procedure is that you go on international aeronautical distress and you let aircraft in the area know that you intend to conduct a gunnery serial. Now, it looks like China didn't do that early enough, and that's certainly something we should raise with them. But it is normal that an aircraft would be the first to find out, given how far they were from anybody's coast.
So just joining the dots with what you say, you're saying there's an underspending in defence. The concern over China's activity here, I think, comes against the background of China having a more aggressive posture towards Australia and perhaps in the Pacific more generally. I guess the question all that raises for me is, if they really did want to try this on, if they really did want to do something aggressive in our waters, do we have the ability to stop them?
we experienced economic coercion from China over recent years as part of their aggressive posture. It's not a huge step up to say that in the event of a crisis, that they could interfere with our maritime trade, interdict that shipping. And when we think about the fact that 99% of our trade comes through the maritime domain, like we import 91% of our fuel. Jackie Lambie would be right to say that if somebody interdicted that, we would be stuffed. I think we need to not over-dramatise what's happened in the last 2 weeks, but we do need to take it as a warning of the fact that for the first time in a very long time, we have a country that we have a number of disagreements with, predominantly because of their aggression towards countries like the Philippines, towards the Taiwan, the unsafe and unprofessional behaviour putting our ADF women and men at risk in the South China Sea. The first time we have a country like that that can reach our region in a very long time. And that is why we do need to bolster our defences.
Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me on.
And now, the mystery behind a torpedo that washed up on the Gold Coast, beach today has been solved. The bomb squad was called to Main Beach after members of the public spotted a suspicious device, sending it into lockdown. Now, it was kind of suspicious because it's been identified as a practice torpedo that went missing during a recent ADF training drill. Police have confirmed, though, it is not a threat to public safety. Wow.
And while some people would hear the word bomb and, avoid the area, reasonable, these blokes thought a little sticky beak was a great idea, at least at first.
Does it make you guys nervous knowing you were out there in the water and, something could have potentially gone off?
Well, now that you've mentioned it.
If you look closely, you can see the moment where his heart flashes before his eyes. And look, it does look like the gravity of the situation has finally hit that bloke, but his mate, not so much.
Just putting a lot of trust in the Queensland Police Service right now, that they understand blast radiuses. Radii.
It is the grammar police they should be worried about.
Yeah, that's right. Forget about the Queensland.
Wow.
Totally.
You're watching the project back soon.
This is The Project. Welcome back.
Our next guest has been described as a heavy metal comedian, and it's not hard to see why.
I like my car, do not like my car's horn. Someone's behind me, I can't slam on my brakes, I have to hit my horn, and it goes, I went thousands of dollars into debt for that sound to potentially be the last sound I make on this planet. Hey, no, stop! Darkness forever.
Please welcome Luke Severeid. That's it on. Good.
Yeah, I figured I should wear an appropriate shirt.
Yeah, definitely. So this heavy metal comedian thing, how do you mash heavy metal and comedy?
Really, I just do comedy, but I yell it. No, I don't know. I the big metalhead growing up and got into comedy and then was like, oh, I can just kind of mush them together, and then turns out a bunch of people enjoy that. I'm like, all right, that's great.
Keep doing it. Now, look, I don't want to, judge you by your appearance, but I would say one look at you and I could tell you're a metal fan.
Thank you. How dare you accurately assess me? That's sort of on purpose. I think a lot of metalheads do that. Like we like to wear band shirts. It's like just it's a show and tell, like a little bit. You're just walking around and be like, oh, I hope someone likes the album that I like.
And then you get that affinity.
Yeah, well, it's you immediately you're like, oh, Mastodon. I was like, okay, this guy knows what I'm talking about.
So I quite like metal, so I'm not put off by it. But there is a cohort of people who. So do you find that you're scaring people at the same time as you're attracting them?
Yeah, but that's also why you wear the shirt. And also, if I'm on stage and I'm wearing the shirt, I kind of calibrate the audience a little bit. If they're not specifically coming to see me, that they'll be like, oh, maybe he'll yell a little bit.
Luke, were you in metal bands growing up?
A little bit, not a lot. I played music for a little while and was not great. And then I was like, oh, I can just talk instead.
And you are out here for Knotfest.
Yes,
and
I am.
For those people who don't know, I obviously do. It is not about scouts or knitting. It's a totally different thing. So for those who don't know, it's...
Yeah, Knotfest, it's a whole heavy metal music festival that's all over the world, but they're doing a run of shows through Australia, and then I'm doing stand-up comedy shows tied to it as well.
I do have one more question. If
Yes.
you could trade your comedy skills for being in a massive metal band, would you do it?
Ooh. Oh, wow.
That's no. No.
Really?
No. Because I'm basically just a one-man a cappella metal band.
Oh.
And sorry, too much self-esteem in the moment. As I said, I was like, do you feel that certain about yourself in the moment? And no, I mean, it would be awesome. It'd be great. And that was like kind of like as a teen, that's what I wanted to do. And like, then I got into comedy and it's like, it's apples and oranges, but like to give up being able to, like the sound of laughter is by far my favorite sound. So to like give that up for just a bunch of people in a mosh pit punching each other at my commands.
Yeah.
Okay, that does sound kind of good. That does.
But on that, because look, I'm outing myself here. I did not recognise the T-shirt. I am sorry, but do you have any advice, or what would you say to someone, allegedly, maybe me, who's not necessarily a metalhead, but what would you say to me to maybe convince me to dip a toe into that world?
Okay. Well, I think if you're not a metalhead and you've heard it and it doesn't scratch the itch, I mean, I do think it's just kind of ingrained in you to an extent. It's like, I know the first time I heard like double kick, I felt like a sleeper agent that had been activated.
It's a drumming
thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, we found 2 people in the audience. Oh yeah, black shirt, of course, yeah. I found my demographic. I clocked them as soon as I came in too. What I would say to get you into it, I think what we need to do is have you have a terrible day and be stuck in like terrible traffic in the car, and then your friend's just like, oh, you should listen to this, and then the intensity of it will kind of harmonize with those emotions.
I have terrible
days.
Drown out the sound of your bad car horn as well.
Yes, it does. That's usually why I have it turned up all the way.
I thought you were going to say drown out the sound of my crying, and I was like, yeah.
Now, we normally start with this. Welcome to Australia, because you've only just arrived, I think, this morning. Yeah.
4 hours ago, 5 hours ago.
You're doing exceptionally well.
Thank you.
Very well.
How was the flight?
It was good. There was a lot of them. It was good. It was like 24 hours of flying. Now I'm in the future, so that's really cool. It was good. Made a bunch of small talk with a bunch of people, and I actually, someone was asking me where I was going. I was like, I'm going to Australia. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm a comedian. I'm going down there. And they're like, oh, what's your socials? And I showed them. And then they started watching my clips in front of me, and just like this, like, so I watched you guys watch me, and I was like, I don't like that. So it's happened multiple times in the last 24 hours, and luckily everyone seemed pretty content. But it's a gamble, and I'm not going to do that again. Because it is just like, oh yeah, look through my Instagram, and then they're just.
Were they laughing?
Not as much as I wanted. But like enough. We still talked after that, but it was a gamble.
Yeah. What's your go-to lie if someone says to you, what do you do when you don't want to say it?
Oh.
I'm a bad liar. I usually just say it, and I'm like, I do comedy, and if they get weird about it, I'll be like, you wouldn't enjoy my comedy, that's fine.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, okay.
So you got into this music. When did it start for you? Were you sort of moshing to Slipknot when you were back in kindy?
Listen to the lingo on this one.
Oh, yeah, I know a thing or two about metals, crushes and otherwise.
You were great up until that last part.
Thanks, Wally.
Sorry.
I was a teen. Like, I got a bunch of jokes about it too, but I heard Slipknot was actually like one of the first bands, like their self-titled album was one of the first albums that I listened to where I was just like, oh, you could do that? It was like kind of as a teen is when it first started, and then, which is also a great age to hop in a mosh pit because you're so spongy. You can just
As Billie Eilish fans are about to discover. Luke is here for Knotfest. Slipknot, of course, headline this, right? So, he's here for that. This is the music festival. He's also doing stand-up shows around the country. All the details are on our website. Would you please thank Luke Severeid?
All right, we're going to take a break. More project. George the Project, welcome back.
Now, when I think trails of destruction, I think cows. That's right. This is what happened when a herd of rogue cows trashed a campsite.
Oh my gosh.
This viral video shows this trail of destruction. Chewed up chairs, flipped tables, food scattered everywhere.
Wow.
Apparently the campers were off exploring for the day when they returned to the chaos, which also included some, let's call them CO2 emissions on the table.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God! Look, there's shit on the chair. Look at the table. There's shit on the table.
I'm mean, you're all laughing like this is some kind of... This is a gang that has been touring the country for years. They actually trashed the hotel room I was staying at for schoolies many years back, and they have been on the run ever since. So it's not funny, and we should all be on the lookout.
I think they trashed your dressing room before as well, because there was something on the table.
Absolutely untrue, Alex. But Georgie, you had an interesting thought.
I thought that, like, you know, when you stop the car, you're driving in the country, you stop the car because there's cows, and you go and you're like, oh, I love cows. You look at them. What I love is this is them getting their revenge. So it's like they've absolutely trashed the site. Then they're just hiding in the tree line, and they're just watching all of the humans then figure it out. And they're just like, now
we're all
it's our
stopping
turn.
our cars to talk and look at the cows.
You don't do that? No. Okay. Now, as she begins her Australian tour, I got to sit down with the delightful Billie Eilish, and she revealed to me just how she's tricked us all. Billie Eilish, Pirate Baird O'Connor.
There it is.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm a little bit nervous because I have to talk to you.
Don't be nervous. It's just me.
Oh, just you.
Just me.
Artist of a generation, Billie Eilish is finally on Aussie shores for her Hit Me Hard and Soft World Tour. And she's been practicing her accent for us.
Everywhere I go, I just start. I just start.
But I do it as well, and I'm Australian, so I probably shouldn't, but I lean in.
I love
it.
it.
Like, no,
Clear. Yeah. I have my bassist name is Solo.
Oh my God.
And all day yesterday I was going, Sorlar. Sorlar, nor. Yeah.
What constitutes an amazing show for you?
It's kind of all about the crowd for me, because it's kind of a blessing and a curse that my show is very based around my and the fans kind of back and forth. Yeah. It's very interactive, I feel like. And so sometimes it can like make or break my experience, because my favorite thing in the world is just like the most chaotic energy.
She's crushed record after record, most recently with her hit single Birds of a Feather, becoming the most streamed song on Spotify last year. How do you actually begin to comprehend that?
I don't even know. I don't even know if I have, you know? Like, I don't think... It's so hard to actually process. Also because it's not something I can like hold. It's like a stat that I hear and I know that it's true, but thinking about the fact that out of all of the music in the entire world, that song specifically that Phineas and I made on a random, Thursday or whatever, has been played the most in the entire world for the whole year out of all the music ever in the world. Confusing.
Yeah, but does it feel nice, though, to be celebrated for, a song that at its core is really quite optimistic?
Right.
Rather than just the super emotional ones where you scream your heart out.
Right. The song that becomes the biggest is the only time I've ever made a song that's like happy, but even still, it's about dying. I tricked these bitches because the chorus and everything, it seems like it's a love song and it's like, oh, but it's really like about dying.
What do you listen to kind of get that creativity going? For you to be like, haha, surprise, it's not what you think.
I kept being like, no, we should write our love song for once. Like, we don't have any love songs. Like, I've never felt like the need to write one because I've never really felt that way. Phineas and I were writing like the verses of Birds of a Feather, and we were both kind of like not connecting to it. It felt like a lie, honestly. It felt like a lie. Yeah. Right when we turned it dark, we were like, oh, okay. Yeah, now we know what to write. All we need is a little dark twist and we can do anything.
Creating all of her music with her older brother Phineas, the siblings share 9 Grammy wins. Well, on your partner in crime, Phineas.
Yeah.
I got to speak to him a couple of months ago, and he told me the most delightful story of when you were tiny humans and you attempted to sell his worldly belongings.
Oh, yeah.
Is that true?
It sure is. I loved, making money as a kid. Anything I could get $1 for, I would want.
The drive.
All I wanted was money as a kid. I just loved it. I loved the smell of a dollar bill so much. It's still like anytime I have cash in my hand, I go,
well, it's so tangible, right? With your paper money.
Yeah, I did that a few times. I also one time sold his like magic set for like a penny or something.
Excellent.
Yeah. He's gotten me back for it. So I'm like, we're done. I did all the vocals. Yes.
I'm like, wait a minute.
Like,
do this entirely
do
different
this. Can you take this one and like, oh.
I heard somewhere that you were talking about that concept of growing up and how the older you get, kind of the less fearless you get. Does that ring true?
Totally. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's what's so wonderful about kids is their honesty and view of the world. They don't think about their body. They don't think about like their gender. They're not thinking about, anything. Everybody is just everybody. And you like them or you don't as a kid. Like, you're like, I hate that, but I love them. It doesn't mean anything. And then there's a certain age that happens to all of us, kind of around, I feel like for girls it's earlier than for boys, but I mean, being a young girl is truly terrible, like genuinely awful. It's sad. Like we lose that kind of wild freedom, and also that's because a lot of it is because of like being polite. Yeah. You can't be like, making crazy faces and making comments and, it's like being proper and it's like we lose a lot of that fun, childlike whimsy when we get older.
The whimsy. But you know what? You're delivering whimsy with all of your shows. Yes. Because no one feels self-conscious because they're looking at you on stage and you're just like giving everything.
Oh my God, yeah. On the last tour, I had a moment. I just remembered. I should keep doing this. Every show I would say like, I would make everybody like wiggle their whole bodies and like do all these things. And I'd be like, if you feel like it's embarrassing or weird, like you gotta just let that go here. This is not the place to feel like I need to be cool. Like nobody's allowed to be cool here. Cool is not fun at all.
What a perfect place to end the interview. Yeah. We'll wiggle it out.
Wiggle it out.
Billie Eilish.
Shake it in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Great chat, but I didn't see you wiggle it out.
I was wiggling. No. Yeah, I was wiggling. If Billie tells you to wiggle, okay, you're going to wiggle. But honestly, she was so delightful. And I totally understand because when you go to her concerts, everyone's just so enraptured by her. Yeah. And I get it. I get it because when she speaks, you want to listen and she's just so talented. And Billie Eilish is, of course, here on her sold-out tour. But if you haven't got tickets, you can always listen to the album Hit Me Hard and Soft, however you do that.
So she just did that for no return?
Yeah.
For someone who loves money that much, that's very, very good.
Great.
That's it from us tonight. Would you please thank Ali Sleds? Music. Box now. It was 6:30. Bye.